summer transitions to fall, one tradition for many families is the annual pilgrimage to the countryside to visit a pumpkin patch where we go on a hayride, pick out the perfect pumpkin, get lost in a corn maze, drink cider, and buy decorations to mark the coming of autumn. These activities are all celebrated and made possible because this is harvest season. For many, the harvest is little more than a reason to get out of the house, spend time with the family, and enjoy the cooler temperatures fall can bring. However, throughout history, harvest season was a crucial time where families stored up food for the impending winter and prepared their fields for next year's crops. In fact, the season of autumn or fall, as it became known, was called harvest throughout most of history. As families began to move into cities from the country, the term lost its relevance for the majority of the population. The focus of the season for most was no longer on the activity of harvesting crops, but on the signs of the season, like the falling of leaves. While most of society has lost its connection to the term harvest, redefining it by their own life experiences and primarily focusing on the signs of the season, we, the church, find ourselves in a similar place when it comes to the harvest of souls that we are called to remember. We often cite the words of Jesus to ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field. We give to missionaries and organizations that advance the gospel, but we have redefined what Jesus' call means for our own lives. What we learn from Jesus asking for workers is that the harvesting of souls is hard, time-consuming work, but all believers are called to answer this call. Jesus' call to his disciples was to go and make disciples. This means the harvest is more than getting someone to pray a prayer and attend church. Harvesting requires time, resources, and work. And quite frankly, most people today would say they're short on time and resources and are already overworked. So in this environment, how do we answer Jesus's call to be workers in the harvest and to go and make disciples? Well, in the book of Judges, we find a story about someone who was struggling to see how he could be used by God in the tumultuous times he lived. We see Gideon hiding in a winepress, beating out wheat to hide it from the Midianites, a people that were taking land, livestock, crops, and laying waste to Israel. Things were bleak in Israel. Early in Judges 6, it tells us that the people were hiding in mountain caves to protect themselves from the Midianites. Gideon's family was not exempt from the fear of pillaging and violence. Gideon was the firstborn son of the leader of the tribe of Manasseh, yet now he was resigned to threshing the little wheat they had in a winepress. Gideon could not see a way out of his current situation, and he definitely could not see how God could use him to free his fellow countrymen. In the words of minister and author Matthew Henry, Gideon was a man of brave and active spirit, yet he was buried alive in obscurity. An angel appears to Gideon as he is working, and Gideon asks the angel why he has not rescued the Israelites and where are all the miracles his ancestors had seen. Gideon's question is similar to what we may ask when praying for a harvest of souls. Lord, when will you send the people through whom you will do miracles and deliver us from our current situation? The Lord's response to Gideon is simple. And the Lord said to him, "Go in this might of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Do not I send you?" Gideon responds much as we might today by focusing on his weakness and questioning his own ability. In fact, the Lord tells Gideon that he is mighty, and most importantly, he tells him that he is sending him out. Do not I send you? This is the phrase that the Lord says to each one of us. Whether we are full-time missionaries, accountants, or work in a machine shop, whether you are a pastor or work in a pasture, the Lord is saying to you today, do not I send you. The work to be done is not our work. This is the Lord's work, and as such, the Lord will provide a way. The Lord tells Gideon, "But I will be with you." His words to Gideon ring true to us in this season of harvest. In the rest of Gideon's story, we see him questioning God, asking for reassurance, and doubting his ability. But more importantly, we see Gideon being obedient and doing the work that God has asked him to do. It was hard work. It was scary work. It required time and resources. Through his insecurities and doubt, Gideon trusted and obeyed, and with the power of the Lord, he led a small army to an unlikely victory. Like Gideon, God is calling us to be available and to be obedient, to listen to his voice when he calls, and to continually realize that he is a good father that always provides a way for his good and perfect will to be done. How practical is the Father's love for us. We can even see it in how he uses all of creation to provide for us. Around the autumnal equinox, there's a harvest moon. A harvest moon is a full moon, and when the angle of the moon's orbit and the tilt of the earth align just right, it causes the moon to rise around sunset for several nights in a row, providing farmers with additional daylight to help them get the remaining crops in before winter begins. His light is shining, and our role is to be like the harvest moon, aligning ourselves with the will of the Lord by being obedient to his call and shining his light to a dark and dying world. The harvest is ready. The time is now. There is work that needs to be done. There are words that need to be spoken. There are miracles that need to be performed. There are disciples that need to be made. And we are the ones that have been called for this harvest. It will require work, time, and resources. But the Lord is saying to us today, do not I send you, and I will be with you. We can rest in these words, knowing that just as God provided for Gideon, he will provide for us if we are willing to listen for his voice and willing to heed the call of the Lord of the harvest.